Hello fellow tankers, bonjour amis tankistes. In this video I will present you a gameplay on the Ardennes map. I have already posted a main tutorial for this map, and in this main tutorial and in actually subsequent gameplays I really insisted on the fact that this area, which is often underexploited by both teams, is actually a very good flanking area, and fighting in this area is actually much more effective than fighting in this area, which is very often the most popular. And whatever the game mode, conquest, domination, or the mode that we will now address, my advice from both sides is really to exploit this area for flanking, for instance, from the red side, or also, as you will see in this game, from the blue side. So we are actually not playing a domination or conquest map, we are playing a battle mode game where both teams have a cap. And if a team loses their cap, the tickets are bleeding very fast, and the team will lose. But the catch is that to uncap the enemy cap, it takes a very long time, of the order of 3 or 4 minutes, maybe even longer. And to cap this enemy cap will also take a very long time, a bit less if you have many of your allies on the enemy cap, but still. So at the end of the day, the goal is not to uncap and cap the enemy team. The goal is essentially to kill the entire enemy team. What I mean by that is that in practice, these battle mode games are deathmatch, and that it's very rare that you win the game by ultimately capping the enemy zone. Very often the enemy team will be dead well before. But there are a few exceptions. So let me give you my main advice on this kind of battle mode games. If the two caps are far from each other, you have to be extremely patient, and essentially you should not care at all about the enemy cap. And these battles where the two caps are very far away, you will see they are always a deathmatch. Always, simply always. And the closer the two caps are, the more aggressive you have to be toward the enemy cap. And the reason is pretty simple. You have the example of the American desert, where the two caps are actually very close to each other and quite far from the spawn. And the idea is that if a team controls the area around the one cap, they actually control the area around the two caps, and they will ultimately be able to indeed cap safely your cap. Whereas obviously, if imagine that the red caps was here and the blue caps was here, very close to the spawn, you can imagine that if you ultimately succeed in capping the red cap, that means that essentially you have killed the entire red team. So the lesson is that you have to be extremely patient when the two caps in a battle mode are far away, and very aggressive, like on American desert and Finland, for instance, when the two caps are very close to each other. So here on this Ardennes map, we are in an intermediate case, and so that you have to be obviously again not too aggressive, because ultimately it will probably be a deathmatch, but not too passive, because the enemy is not so far from your cap. And if they really control heavily this area in the city, and if you come from your spawn, you will be in the open terrain, and they will be actually able to hold your cap for a long time, and long enough to actually cap it. So I hope that this few advice will help you, and will now go to the gameplay. So I am playing my 7-0 British lineup. starting with this Vickers, which is a very good tank, which is a kind of an exception in the British lineup, being actually quite mobile, which has a very nice reload of around 6 seconds, and which is really a tank which I enjoy very much. And I'm playing with Crazy Gourami, who is playing the 7-0 French lineup that I play very often. And so as you will see in the beginning of this game, our team will be a bit too passive. Very often, again, my advice in battle mode is that in the beginning you are a bit defensive, especially when the two caps, for instance in Alaska, on the Alaska map, when the two caps are quite far away, be quite defensive, and the idea is to essentially kill the too aggressive players who would go to your cap too soon in the game. But as you can see right now, our team is actually behind our cap, which is well too passive, and that gives the opportunity for the enemy team to advance. So as you can see, Crazy Gourami and myself, we are the only one almost past our cap. So here our role is actually to prevent the enemy from pushing too much our cap. And as you notice, we are both exploiting this area. Let me stop just a second. We are both exploiting this area of the map, which provides very rich angle of fire, much more interesting angle of fire than the upper part of the map, where you see that many red tanks are concentrated and can be easily flanked, like I'm doing right now on this IS-3. So I'm putting it in fire. I'm checking the neighborhood, and since I see that there is actually no tanks, I can advance a bit more and kill it. But unfortunately, as you can see on the map, quite a few players have been killed on B, and a lot of players in our team are actually kind of staying in our spawn. And again, the goal of Crazy Gourami and myself is to try to slow down the big push of the enemy team. So the enemy team has been a bit too aggressive, and our team a bit too passive in this early play. But so far so good. But again, remember that the thing that you have to follow during a battle mode game is essentially the number of tanks which have been killed in the enemy team. That will essentially tell you if your team is in good shape or not. So here, unfortunately, I kind of misread the situation and sense, and I'm making an error of being a bit too aggressive. I should have actually concentrated on flanking the tanks on my right, and although I will kill this T-44 100, I will pay for my lack of patience, as you can see. And indeed, the fact that we had pushed and eliminated a lot, quite a few tanks between A and B actually helped our team to advance. But as you will see, unfortunately, there will be a kind of collective suicide of the blue team between A and B in the next minute. So I am respawning with my FV 4002 which has a very good shell, reasonably armored turret, but which is slow as fuck, pardon my French. And as I am respawning, you see that we have actually lost a lot of players around B, and despite the fact that you don't see on the map yet the red tanks because I'm simply too far, they are dangerously approaching our cap. So as the enemy is uncapping, let me mention something about the battle mode in realistic battle. In realistic battle, you should never uncap the enemy cap if you are not sure that you will not lose control of it, that is, your team is really with you, and you are pretty sure that you have enough force so that ultimately you will capture the enemy zone. And the idea is that in a realistic battle, if you uncap the enemy cap and essentially ultimately lose the cap, then the enemy will recap it. Although it will take some time, but it will allow some enemies to gain some spawn points, and obviously that shows that really uncapping too early in realistic battle is a very bad idea. In arcade, that can be interesting in sense to try to incite the enemy team to stay around their cap, to try to defend or retake their cap. Let me really mention that in arcade that if the enemy uncapped your cap, it's not a problem. You don't lose any point by having your cap uncapped, and since it takes very long to cap, there is no real interest in recapping it. But remember again that in RB, don't uncap the enemy zone if you are not sure that you will keep it. So as you see, I'm using this flanking. I'm completely alone. I'm navigating between the enemy lines, and I'm not very comfortable because I'm in a slow tank, and I'm obviously aware of this T29. And unfortunately, I completely miss my shot. And unfortunately, after raking the M103 behind me, the M103 will kill my second tank. And you see that the situation is not that great, with the enemy now solidly installed near our cap. So as you can see, our team is now pinned quite far away from our spawn, apart from my squad mate Crazy Gourami and one other tank. And I have decided to take a backup of the vicars because I suspect that we'll need its mobility, and that definitely to navigate between inside the enemy lines, the choice of the FV4002 was not very adequate, this tank being a bit too slow for a very aggressive play, which I plan now to do with these vicars. So I'm kind of trying first to locate where are the enemies, and more or less to try to make a plan. See here, I see the T29 which wrecked me previously, so it's okay to kill it. Let me accelerate here. I will struggle in killing this IS-1. I guess this IS-1 had a pretty bad crew because actually he still has 2 crew, so now he lost all his crew but one. And here I should have waited, I wasted a few shells. I should have waited for his crew to come back. But even after 12 seconds, it's not back then. Even after 18 seconds, so I'm really surprised. And ultimately, his crew is back, so I guess the crew of this tank was indeed at a very low level. So our team is recapping the zone, but again, this is completely irrelevant. You don't need to recap it. The only thing that you need to do is not to lose it. And again, as you can see, I'm exploiting this area, which is so much better flanking area than the other side. And now my goal will be to essentially come in the back of the tanks, which are close to our zone. So you see, since I'm completely alone in this area, I am very careful because my map would only show the tanks that I can physically see. I remind you that in arcade you also see the tanks that some of your close allies see, and which is transmitted by your radio man. But if you are completely alone in a zone, you only see on the map the tanks that you can actually see. And now I'm coming behind these two tanks. With a quite successful surprise attack, and obviously the mobility of the Vickers was a great help here. The Vickers is not very fast, but is very mobile, very agile, and it's a very flexible tank. I really like this tank. And in general, I like flexible tanks which will work in all kind of map. And for me, agility more than speed is extremely important. And we see a good shell and a good reload, which are so essentially agility, a good shell and a good reload is essentially the main properties that you need for a very active and very aggressive gameplay. So at this point, the enemy team has crumbled, and I have killed the last enemy in the team, and obviously because of that, the tickets of the enemy team will disappear in a second. And you see that essentially this battle was a deathmatch, as I mentioned, but it's very common in the battle mode. So thank you for watching. As you can see, my exploitation of this side of the map, which I really advise you to try, was actually quite a success in a battle which for a long time was quite disputed. Maybe at some point the enemy team was a bit too aggressive, but I think that you noticed that the game was more difficult than the final score show. And again, I hope that you enjoyed this specific tutorial on the battle mode. And if I need to summarize, be patient, especially when the two cabs are very far away, and more or less forget about the cabs. Very often it will be a deathmatch, and the closer are the caps, the most aggressive you have to be, and especially on maps like American Desert and Finland. So I thank you also in advance for supporting this channel by firing at the subscribe button if you didn't do it, and shooting a few likes at the video that you enjoy, and hopefully this one. See you on the battlefield. À bientôt sur le champ de bataille.